What is it like being a guest on a podcast versus doing it yourself?
Oh shit. I mean, it's completely different, honestly. Like usually like I'm the one dictating like the direction, like, you know, I'll send it to Anna like, hey, this is what we're going to talk about. Here are the points that I want you to hit on. And, you know, even though you sent the thing out, it's like, it's still more reactive, I guess. Like I'm reacting to how it works, which is, you know, obviously like different from my end, I guess.
For sure.
So it's like, shit, I don't know. It's different. Like last night I was saying, like, it was full preparation. So it's like, I was like, how do I sit? What do I do? In case like, how many podcasts have you done? I'm like, I don't know, but like, I've never been on the other side, you know? And so, yeah, I mean, it took a little bit different, but I'm sure as we kind of get into it, it's going to be normal conversation. So
yeah, that's we did a podcast trip to Boise, Idaho a couple of weeks ago. It's my hometown.
Okay.
And we talked to a handful of people that I either didn't know or hadn't seen in like 9 years. And I was having to do a lot of research because it's not people who I like do business with and I'm familiar with and all that kind of stuff already. And I was telling my my editor Rowan, I was like, I think that good podcasting is built in the preparation. Because when you sit down to talk to somebody, it's like the listeners don't want to hear you go through the like, okay, man, what's your name? Where are you from? It has to be about something, and it shouldn't take you 30 minutes to get there.
No.
But what cracks me up is I send out this, essentially it's like a research sheet with some ideas for talking points and stuff like that to all the different guests.
Okay.
And I've had some people that are like, dude, I wish I wouldn't have looked at that because I found myself trying to like answer the question. Remember the answers that I wrote down to the questions instead of just having a conversation.
Right.
And then I'll have other people that are like, dude, if you didn't send that, I would have been dead in the water. It made me so much more like confident. It's just so weird how people react to it, but I've never seen a note sheet like yours coming into it.
Oh, well, and that, I mean, here's the thing, like I think with me is that between all of the credentials, right, acronyms after my name, I still have like fear. Like even when I have conversations, like I'll just have straight up conversations and not like people are like, you're the smartest person I've ever met, but like, they're like, holy shit, I didn't realize you know, like the depth of your knowledge. And then, you know, there's things like this or a podcast, like our podcast. And I'm like writing out names, like just have a conversation. Like, you know it all. But like in my head, like even last night, I'm like, shit, like what if I forget this? In the you know, in the middle, and then I'm like drawing a blank, you know, I'm sitting there and then I'm sweating in front of cameras and it becomes a piece. So that's always my biggest thing. It's like I try to overly prepare, but then I end up I don't even know if I'll look at it.
Interesting. Is there something ritualistic about that?
Oh shit, I'm sure it's like anything. Like, I mean, you played football, like I played baseball. So there's just something I think that like, you know, I'd rather be overly prepared. And what was like, it was like Alien versus Predators. This is the nerd in me coming out, right? Like, and she's like, you know, one of the questions was like, do you always carry a gun? And she's like, I'd rather have a gun and not need it than need it and not have one.
Right.
So it's like, for me, that's how I don't know why I stuck in my head. I love Alien versus Predator, but that like stuck with me. And so now I'm like, I'd rather have so much information and not need half of it than walk in there and not have an answer that I probably should have had.
Right.
You know, from that end. But like, I mean, that's been an approach with everything. Like there's probably credentials and like certifications that I know I don't use.
Right.
But I'd rather, you know, just for the case that I do need it, like I'd rather be the smartest guy in the room type thing.
Yeah.
So then I can at least answer questions as opposed to being someone that's like, yeah, I don't know that.
Right.
Not that there's something wrong with that, but that's always kind of been like my fear. So like I that's where the rabbit holes come in for me.
Yeah. I love a good rabbit hole, man.
Yeah, dude.
I wonder if that has anything to do. We were talking a little bit off camera about the ideal career path that you thought that you were going to set out on. And I wonder if that preparedness and that like maybe that comfortability with just having a wealth of knowledge thing plays into that at all.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what's funny. Like, if you were to ask me growing up, like, it would be the quickest answer would be like, I'm gonna be a baseball player. Like, I'll play in the major leagues. Like, there was no hesitation. That's
it's a done deal.
Yeah, like I was like, it's the easiest thing. Like, look at me, look at my, you know, results coming through like middle school, grade school, high school. You know, but the funny thing is like, you know, then my dad started to put like, what if it doesn't happen? I'm like, well, it will. but just when I'm done, now I'm going to be an orthopedic surgeon, right? Like there was like
this is a cute thought experiment, Dad.
Yeah, like, hey, I appreciate it, but you're wrong. So it was like one of those things where you just sit there and you're just like, all right, well, yeah, like now when I'm done, I'm going to be a surgeon. As if like all of a sudden you're going to walk off the diamond and then start operating, right? Like,
right.
I mean, that was like my 15, 16-year-old brain working. I was like, that's what I'll do.
World Series on Friday.
Yeah.
You've
like,
got surgery on Monday.
Yeah. You know, like I'm just sitting there like, oh, like full count, bases loaded. I'm down by 3. I got to hit a grand slam. I hit that and I go operate Monday.
Right.
So I think with that, and then like once I got into college and playing baseball, and then you kind of like start to put, you know, the picture together and you're like, well, shit, like what am I going to do? Like, what do I enjoy? Like, I have no idea. And then at that point, right, like most athletes, we kind of roll into like whatever is easiest. Like, oh yeah, I'll do exercise science or, you know, human performance, something to that end, like that ties in with football or baseball. Like, this is easy. And then you kind of get into it. And then that's what kind of like really intrigued me. I was like, holy shit, maybe that is what I'll do. Like orthopedic surgery sounds like fascinating. I can do that for the baseball team. I get to stay with the baseball players. So, you know, as we kind of like worked through that, you know, I kind of approached, I was like, this is what I'm going to do. And my dad's like, what about like an engineer or a nurse? Like, so like when you graduate, you automatically have a job. It's not like more.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, obviously you don't know. So anyway, yeah, that kind of like led into it. So like, I think, you know, part of it was his questioning that led into like, so there's a lot of things I don't know and I have not planned out. And then, you know, there was that aha moment. Like once you were done playing baseball, I was like, what I have is not sustainable. Like there's nothing I have that is transferable to like an exact job.
And had you started down the road in exercise science, like in your undergrad and everything like that at this point?
Yep. Yeah. So like this is right. As soon as I got done playing baseball after college, like it was like, boom. I was like, what do I do? Like, a baseball coach, like, and then you look at the baseball coaches, they're fat, they got the beer belly. Like at that point I was still feeling good, calm, cool, and confident about myself. I was like, I'm never going to be that, you know? So then I got into like, I was like, I have no idea what I was going to do. So I was like, all right, well, I'll just go back to more schooling. Like that's it. Like that was an easy response. It was either that or like military.
Right.
So got into more schooling, did that. And then, you know, my aunt was the one that kind of approached me. It's like, you ever thought about doing like medical sales? Like they like ex-athletes. You guys like to work hard. You know, obviously like your vast knowledge on the human body, like they can teach you kind of the business side. Yeah. So like, then I was like, shit, I don't know anything about business. Like, so now I got to like deep dive into this because, you know, you're a young kid, like you have no idea. So it's just like whatever rabbit hole I could crawl down, like, that's what I did.
Interesting. What was it like going from being in the competitive environment of baseball, school, and all that stuff, where it's kind of like it's really laid out for you, and a lot of it's familiar, right? Like right. You grow up going to school, you grow up playing sports, and then you graduate, and all of a sudden it's like, well, all of the structure that I had, where everyone was telling me where I needed to be, what I needed to do when I got there, like all of that stuff is just gone, and medical sales is it's a very autonomous kind of job.
Yeah.
You know, like I ended up in the medical sales field for a little bit too. And it's like, to me, I think it's a very interesting way to like transfer into something different. But that competitive nature, I think, is like what fueled me and helped me continue to be good, like as I left sports. But I'm curious what that transition looks like for you once you went into that.
I mean, honestly, I loved it. It's like, I mean, we talked about like a little off camera of, you know, watching my dad like own restaurants. So, I mean, he was gone from 6 a.m., you know, 1, 2 a.m., you know, Monday through Friday. So I think, you know, growing up and viewing that, like work wasn't an issue. And then when I got into medical sales, you know, I'll never forget a boss or a boss's boss, you know, said was like, dude, if you iron out a week's worth of work and you can do it in 2 days, take the rest of the week off. And I literally took that idea and ran with it. And I was like, here's all these doctors I'm going to call on like through the week, sent to my manager. As soon as it got approved, I would try to get that shit done by Tuesday.
Wow.
And then I would just kind of like relax. I would still like kind of work, but it was at my own pace, leisurely. I can go to the gym, you know, do things, move around. Like I had a dog at the time, like we go for a walk, hiking,
Okay.
Kind of explore, get to, view Montana or North Dakota. And then, at that point, like go. So it was like, that part was awesome. And and it's feast or famine. Like either you're killing it and like as soon as you dial it back a little bit, you start to lose some of that money and then you're like, shit, I got to, ramp this up again.
Yeah.
So from that end, like it was awesome. Like it was neat. And I think, the competitive nature, cause then like our manager had every single one of us down and you got to see numbers. And I was like, getting beat by Timmy again, like son of a bitch, like let's go, like like here's a couple more emails. And then when I met my wife, a doctor that I worked with in town introduced us, and I just like she was like and my wife was a live-in nanny with them, and she ultimately said like, hey, will you take this guy out on a date? Like he's sending me emails at like 12 o'clock on a Friday, like he obviously does not have a social life. And
you've got nothing to worry about here.
Yeah, like so at that point, like I was like, was I that bad? Like, and she's like, I mean, yeah, like when you went off, like I mean, it was all work. Like you didn't have a off filter,
right?
So I think obviously like taking that, it almost was more so probably a hindrance of not having that structure because like when you have someone that's willing to do the work and do like correct things to succeed, and now all of a sudden there's no structure, like baseball in college, like you have to go to class, right? We have to have teachers sign off on attendance, so I can't just skip it and practice baseball all day.
Right.
And so when you have that piece and then you get into the real world and it's like sun up, sun down, and you have some people like, same thing with the gym, like sometimes we just have to protect people from themselves.
For sure.
And so that was like the biggest thing. So I took like, that was kind of my mentality of like, I'd probably be addicted to drugs if I ever were to do them. So like, that was kind of the thing, like whatever I do, I am all in and I will see it
Interesting.
through.
So it sounds like you kind of went through both sides of the spectrum then with like I'm going to optimize like crazy for my personal life where I'm just going to get all my work done and then chill with my dog and work out and do whatever. And then also went all the way in on the other side with the professional thing of like, nobody's telling me not to work.
Yeah.
And when I work really hard, my paychecks look really good. So I'm just going to do that.
So it was like one or the other. And it was just like, I mean, it was almost seasonal. Like,
just like super volatile?
Yeah. Like I would just go like all in, work Monday through Sunday. And then all of a sudden I was like dead. And then I would be like, all right, I'm going to get what I need to get done by Tuesday. And then I'm not going to do anything. And it was just like up and down, up and down. And there was no really like, I don't know,
like homeostasis
balance,
anywhere.
Like no, like I mean, there was no like I don't even know if that's a word in my vocabulary, but like that's the ultimate like piece. I think is just like it was one or the other, and just back and forth.
And is this dream of being in orthopedics, being in exercise science, is this in the back of your brain while you're doing medical sales, or is it something that kind of like was curbed or set aside?
No, like it was completely set aside. I mean, like at that point, like. Because like as soon as I got done playing ball and got in, I mean, I was making phenomenal money at a very young age. And, we always say like Intuitive Surgical is like a golden handcuffs.
Yeah.
So I did that and, started that and worked for 5 years, which we always say like Intuitive was like dog years. So like if you work 2 or 3 years, usually you're done. So by the time I was like 23, 24, I was like one of the longest employees, that they had from like a sales rep standpoint. Like, otherwise, like most people that were 5-6 years were like upper level management, directors.
Wow.
So, from that end, it was like completely set aside. Like I didn't space it until like my wife was like, you're gone like every day of the week. Like, let's maybe look for some other jobs.
Right.
Or find a different girl. I was like, yeah, well, like, I don't have the greatest game, so like, I'm going to stick with you. Let me find something else. So then we kind of like, went down that rabbit path of, what did I major in? Like, what are my passions? What did I enjoy? What did I, like, walking me back to like my childhood, like, what did you want to do? What did like, okay, here. And then it kind of just spurred and it started snowballing from, like as a kid, like what opportunities was I granted growing up in St. Louis? And, obviously having a professional baseball team, at the time I think it was called Velocity. And so we'd go down there and do all our speed training, our lifting, and like Cardinals players are coming in.
Okay, so it's like a private training facility kind of thing. Okay.
And so we had all of them coming in, and you got to work out. And like, I'll never forget, like there was a time where I was lifting, and then Albert Pujols came up, and like I was like, this was like, I thought I was like, cock of the walk. Like, I just got finished squatting like 225 for 10 or something. I racked it. And he's like, do you mind if I jump in and just like hit it like, 3 or 4 reps that looked like it was like paperweight? I'm like, son of a bitch, like, holy cow, so he racks it. And I look at that, I'm like, man, like there's nothing like that here.
Right.
There's no performance facility. There's no gym. There's nothing to that extent. And, that ultimately kind of led of, what am I going to do with this next step once I got out of medical sales? And I was like, well, she's like, well, what was it? Famous quote that she said was like, if you want to be the change in the world, like be it, like type thing.
Right.
So she's like, if we're going to raise a family here, like start changing it now. So I was like, shit. All right. Like kind of let's go. So then like literally was eating spinners, sat around, saw like a for sale sign across the street. And I was like, I wonder if that's for sale or is that a sign? So I called and she's like, oh, I'd have a space. And then, slowly like evolved and, then you have Beartooth.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Dude, that's nuts. So one of the things that's interesting to me is like, I've been in spots too where like being in a relationship and you hear that like, yeah, you're kind of working all the time and like you're coming to bed late and you're doing like, and I think that there's sometimes where you get that your professional life is so easy to measure. Right. It's like, yeah, I'm doing all of this work, but when I do this, I've got this like positive feedback loop of we've got more money and then we can get more things and a big, like whatever the thing is. Right.
Right.
But you've got this constant feedback loop of I put this work in, I get this thing out.
Yeah.
And in your personal life, you don't really get that. Like there's nobody like handing you an award or putting you on a leaderboard for making it home in time for dinner or for like spending present time or going on a hike or, making sure date night happens. But I'm curious for you, being in a position where you're as young as you are, making there's a shit ton of money in medical sales.
Right.
You've got all of the positive feedback loop of like, yeah, but I work hard and I make a lot of money. How do you what allowed you to actually listen when somebody came to you and they're like, yeah, maybe it's time for something different?
I mean, shit. I think honestly, like just the fact that Kate is to me, like she's drop dead gorgeous. So like whatever she said, like I was going to do type thing. So like, that's a huge ploy on that end. And two, like Kate is very, like you'll never meet a kinder person. So like when she asks these questions, it is always to a point of where like you're literally looking at her and being like, oh shit, like she's really asking like, what was my childhood dream? Like, right. Like, so you kind of like get there and like, you put all the guards down, like, and you kind of really start to think, from that end. So I think like one outside of like the physical side of things where, like I said, like, like kind of an attentive dog, she talks, I'm just sitting there staring at her. But the other side of it too, is just like kind of who she is as a person. And like, I'm not going to judge you for whatever you say here. Like,
right.
It's just kind of an open platform. So honestly, it took a point 'cause like I didn't just go from medical sales straight into owning a gym. It was like medical sales. And, I had started the gym, but I was still doing medical sales.
Interesting.
And, it took some things from higher ups that really kind of rubbed me a wrong way, like morally, that I just did not agree with.
Right.
To a point where I was just like, why am I doing this? Like, this company does not give a shit about the doctors. Like, it is purely about a dollar.
Yeah.
And, when I got to that point where I started to develop friendships and relationships with a lot of these doctors, because it's a small town, right? Like I'm going to see them at Albertsons, I'm going to see them on the running paths.
For sure, yeah.
I did not feel comfortable pushing them to a point where that was now an awkward situation because I'm the one that has to live here.
Right.
And so when I had the gym kind of up and running, right, the business plan was written, we had, signed a lease on the space. It was that, and then like all of this, like, kind of like moral discomfort. I was just like, you know what? I quit. Like I literally called my boss. I was like, I'm done, like today. Like,
wow.
And she's like, wait, what? And I'm like, yeah, like, the director came up. I was like, I did not like that interaction. If this is the way that, the company's going, like, I'm done. And she's like, let me get HR, and like hung up. And so then I looked at, my now wife, and I was like, I just quit. Like she's like, well, shit, what are you going to, and then that kind of spurred the question of like, well, what are we going to do? So it was like a perfect time, whether you call it divine intervention, whatever it might be. It was, a culmination of like, I had nothing else. And there was a person in my life that allowed me to like kind of self-reflective, like, I've been wasting 5 years of like, yes, it was awesome getting the paycheck, but like at the same time, I could have died and the world would have never known. Like there was no impact. There was no peace. It was like, I was doing it for $1, and the only people that lives were changing were the people above me. And that, like, at that point I was just like, this isn't worth it anymore.
Right. I think that golden handcuffs concept is super important for people to know about, because it is such a good, I think that it's such a good frame for realizing a very tense situation that somebody might be in, but not know why it feels so tense. And the thing that's tricky about the golden handcuffs is like, you look around and it's like, okay, well, I'm getting paid well for this job that I'm doing. I've got good benefits. I've got like all of the boxes that I was told coming up that I'm supposed to check are checked right now.
Right.
But it leaves unchecked a couple of boxes that are like, might go against your morality, or it might not leave you enough time to spend with your family, or you might not be able to live in a place that you want to live. Like there are all of these things where it's like, why I'm supposed to love this job. Why don't I?
Right.
And then it puts you in a spot where it's like, okay, somebody on Wall Street might be making $500,000 a year, working 60, 70-hour weeks.
Right.
And it's like, well, I can't leave this job because I can't not make $500,000 a year now, because this is where my standards at, and like, my expenses have caught up to this. But I would give up the money to do something else. So it's like this really tricky, like, what do you do here?
Right.
I'm curious for you though, once you like made that call and it's like, yeah, I'm done with that. What does it feel like after that to be like all in on something that does feel like something that like fuels you and you're giving to your community and stuff like that, after you've left this like golden handcuffs, well-paid prison that you're in?
Gosh. I mean, that's a hard piece, is that like, it's twofold, right? Like, so now you have a job where, right, like, I mean, in like most jobs, right, like work reflects paycheck. So at that point, like the more I work, the more I make, right? Like at the same time too is like, there's nothing, right? Like, Beartooth was, a glimmer in my eye, right? Yeah. So now it's like, this is what I know it would need to be successful. And, how I measured success was, a conversation that I had with my dad when I asked him, I kind of told him like, hey, I'm going to, Kate and I are going to get married.
Yeah.
And he was like, before you have a family, right? Like in order to do this, you need to provide for the life that I gave you plus, right? That's the standard, right? Like we have to continue to grow. So then I look at, like my lifestyle as a child growing up, and I'm just like, well, shit, I should have, stayed with the medical company.
Right.
So then I kind of like, so that kind of gives me point B, right? Like where I know I need to get the gym to be able to provide for my family the same way my dad did, plus. And
interesting. Did that feel like a bit of pressure at that point, or was it pressure or clarity at that point?
Honestly, it was clarity, because it gave me the roadmap, and that's just, how my brain works. Like, oh, like I said, like this is B, this is where I'm at. Like,
yeah.
Oh shit, that's easy, right? Like I can do this.
Okay.
But of course, like things just never happen fast enough. So in my mind, when you kind of are on your own island, right, running your own business, it's the time is never moving fast enough, but also too, you have all the weight of the world, right? Like,
yeah,
there's only so much money in my savings account, right? Like we're getting newly married, like, then it's like all of the things that like the pressure from like societal pressure that's being put on, like, I need to buy a house. We need to have a family right away, right? Like there's all of these things that we just need to start checking. And I'm like,
and you just went from this position where you're getting paid a lot to starting from zero.
Is this a mistake? Like, can I do a redo here? But I will say, like, kind of on a side note, like the biggest jumps that we made as a business were like kind of coincided with every single one of our children. So we have 3 children. Like the first one, because I was like, I'm going to be a dad. Like this can't be a personal training, like my own little hobby. Like I need to make this a business.
No longer a passion project.
Yes. Like, so like, you know, we had Sophia and like, you know, kind of leveled up, like, you know, and we look at through this Archer's 1, right? Like that kind of like coincides with the same time as like our remodel. Like, so there's all of these things that like, as I, you know, as kids come, I'm like, well, shit, now I got 3 kids to provide this, you know, the kind of same lifestyle. Like, how do I take this next step? And then 2, I think, you know, is we look at this day and age, and as expense starts to come into this, and, you know, the idea of like kind of generational wealth, like, you know, how do I, you know, set my kids up, you know, because there always will be hardships, and I always want my, you know, my kids, grandkids to at least be able to say like, hey, like I need help, and then be able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was something that like, you know, Kate and I always kind of decided like that was kind of our measure of success is, you know, if our kid came to us and was like, I need $20,000, like I want to be able to do it.
Yeah.
You know, obviously like understanding, I'm not just going to write him a check, but you know, from that end. So, but I want at least the means to be able to say like, okay, like, yeah, we'll help you out. Like we'll get through this, and we'll do it together. So, you know, like, so as that kind of moves through and we hit these landmarks, like it's, you know, I just create the next one. Like that's, you know, and it probably pisses my wife off just because like, right. Like now it's just, I'm working constantly, but like, and, you know, I think short story long, going back to your original question, like that's what's hard when you do something that you love, because like yesterday I had 3 classes, 9 personal training clients, right? And then everything else, like that was just client facing. Then I have everything else to run the business too.
Right.
And that's just one day, you know, and I enjoy it. I don't think my wife necessarily enjoys it as much,
right.
You know? And so, but I think from that end, like that's a hard thing when you own your own and you enjoy what you do, like it's hard to find that off switch.
Yeah. There's a piece of advice that I love to listen to, and it says, find something that looks like work to them, but feels like play to you.
Yeah.
And the best part about that is like, you can put in long hours. You can dedicate so many things of yourself to that because it's fueled by passion. It's not fueled by, I have to be here for this long and then I have to check these to-dos off and blah, blah, blah. It's like You're looking for that next thing of like, how can I give the most of myself, the most effectively to this thing? And I think what's tricky about that is some people look at that from the outside and they're like, dude, you worked 7 days this week. What the hell are you doing? It's like, yeah, but it didn't feel like it. Look at all the exciting shit that happened.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, look at what we're doing here.
Exactly.
I mean, like you just, right, we're coming off a Memorial weekend and I was like, are you working this weekend? And I was like, it's a yes or no. Like, are you working or not? And I'm like, yeah, I am working.
Yeah.
And she's like, it's a holiday weekend. I'm like, I know, but these kids need to be trained, right? Like, and that's a hard thing is, right? Like, you know, you open a gym because you want to make an impact. And now these kids are directly relying on you, right? Like from a return to play process, ACLs, right? Tommy John's, like, and they're part, like, they don't, like, their bodies don't care. Their timeline doesn't care that it's a holiday weekend, right? Like, I just know, like, I need to do X, Y, and Z to continue to progress you. And if that falls on a weekend, then that's just the nature of the beast. And, you know, I think, you know, as you look at this, like, you know, my wife brings up balance or like, you know, like, what are your kids going to do? Like this kind of thing. And I, you know, obviously like, you know, watching my dad and watching that work ethic and, you know, whether you're a religious man or not, right? Like, I mean, there's something to be said. And that's what I hope my kids say is like, it's okay to put other people before yourself. Like, that's not like, I can be selfish with my time, but also too, like it's an hour. Like, I got 23 other hours in the day to do what I need to do. And, you know, if I spend this 1 hour with this kid that helps him stay in a sport after coming off an injury, like that means something. That hour means way more to him than 1 hour out of my day. I just now know, like, I need to be a little bit more deliberate with my time when it comes to kids or, right? Like, hey, like I go home and I spend 4 hours, but I'm on my computer, but I'm doing it at home. Is that, or I could spend an hour with them and I'm like, outside in the backyard and I'm, playing dodgeball with my 1 and 2 year old as they run around. Right. Like, so like, there's those things that you're just like, what is it? Like, what's the happy medium? Like, and this is the day old question that my wife and I always ask is like, she'd be like, would you say you're balanced this week? And my question, and she hates it, is always like, what's balance?
Yeah.
Right. Like, is it a day? Is it a week? Is it a year? Is it throughout my lifetime?
Mm-hmm.
Like what is truly work-life balance? Right. Because it and to your point, like, when you were asking the question about like family and lifestyle, like, is it a successful dad? Like, what does a successful dad mean? Right. Like there's too broad of a definition to truly define. There'll never be like 6 hours of work, 6 hours of play, right? Like your 8 hours of sleep, that leaves you 4 other hours. Like there'll never be that. So the question becomes is like, what is balance? And that's what I think, like, I have these conversations with kids and, adults about like with sports, and they're like, well, I want him to be a kid. I want him to be balanced. And I'm like, well, if you look at from a lifetime, really a high school kid can only play sports for 4 years.
Right.
Right. If life expectancy for a male is 87, like, that's not balanced. Like, right. Like you can only play sports for 4 years. Like, why not dedicate everything you can for those 4 years? Now, if you're looking at it from a 4-year standpoint, like, hey, this is his only high school. Like,
right.
Yeah. Then we can have an argument of what is life balance, sport balance, and that kind of stuff. But, you play college, and this is kind of a question that I always ask. And granted, I will preface this with, if my dad were to ask me to do things in high school, I probably would have said no regardless. But, knowing what I know now, like, I wish my parents would have pushed me to be more, like do more, right? Like, if, knowing that there's a direct correlation between work and skill, right? Like, I wish my parents would have pushed me harder. Like, could I have been a better baseball player? 100%. Like, I know that, right? And and this is just me, and like, I don't have papers to prove this, but right, I've trained a lot of athletes, and I've trained a lot of D1 athletes. And the biggest difference between those that go and play D1 and those that don't is just purely work, right? Like, right now I have 4 of them that are all back from college. All 4 play D1 in their, respective sport. And it's just work. Like, they're not like, you wouldn't look at them and be like, that's a freak of nature, right? Like, you would look at them and be like, oh, okay. And then you like hear like they're a D1 athlete, and you're like, oh, damn, like, would never guess that. But I watched their work ethic from the moment they were freshmen to now. Yeah. And you're like, that's why, right? Like and so like that's always like the hardest thing. And it kind of goes back to this roadmap, right? Like, most roadmaps are laid out. Like, you know what it takes to be a successful businessman. Like, the question is just, are you willing to sacrifice some of the things now, right, to get it there? And if you're not, then like, be okay with where you're at, like, type thing. And that's like these hard conversations that I have to have with parents sometimes, is like, you want your kid to do this. Like, well, I mean, this is it, right? Like, you can read any memoir, autobiography from all the greats, and like, there's one common theme, right? It's, I just worked hard, right? Like, I woke up Michael Jordan, right? Like, waking up early, going to the gym, shooting. Like, kids like, what do I need to do to get better at basketball? I'm like, do you wake up in the morning and shoot? Like, that's like my first question asked. Like, right. I'm like, so they're like, oh, no. I need my sleep. And I'm like, well, like, if you need 8 hours of sleep, like, work backwards. If you wake up at 5, what time do you need to go to bed? Yeah. Well, I don't know. I want to do this. And I'm like, well, dude, like, I mean, there's your answer. That's why, like, now, granted, like, there will be kids that will do that work, but I think like, I didn't play, like, high level D1 baseball, but like, I don't like regret the amount of work that I did do, and look back and be like, I wasted that time. For sure. Because then it just like spread throughout my whole life, right? Like, I mean, then you're just sitting there and you're like, well, that's why I work hard now. That's why I have a successful business now. That's why I'm, granting opportunities that otherwise, like, I thought I would have to stay in the medical field, to be able to try to get like this amount of money, or, this amount of clout, or, whatever you want to call it. Like, right. It's just, one of those things. So like I look back and I'm like, shit, I wish my parents would have pushed me harder.
Yeah.
Like,
I think it comes down to like goal optimization, really.
Yeah.
Because I mean, to use your like high school sports analogy, I think what's interesting about it is if somebody says, I want to be a D1 athlete at all costs, it's like, okay, well, then what we're going to do is we're going to optimize for the fact that like that's pretty much all you're going to do.
Yeah.
But if somebody says, I want to play college sports in general at any level, I want to have good grades, I want to get a decent academic scholarship wherever I go, I want to be a part of like clubs or have a great social life in high school, and like have this high school experience or whatever. That's totally cool. But but the second kid's day and weekends are probably going to look a lot different than the D1 player who's like going to do everything for it.
Right.
Because the D1 player might be on travel teams and working out at private facilities and doing all that kind of shit on the weekend, while the other dude is like, hey, all my friends are going to the lake, so I'm going to go to the lake.
Right.
Right. And so I think that again, in business and pretty much anything else, extrapolates out for what is your goal. Like if your goal is purely, I want to have an exit in my business in 5 years. Okay, well, that 5 years is probably going to look freaking crazy.
Right. Oh, yeah.
From the outside, but it's goal optimization. And I think what I like about what you said in your story is that you and your wife sat down and said, like, okay, what are our goals? Like, we want to make this kind of money because we want to be able to provide for our kids, to provide for our grandkids. And, like, it sounds like there was a vision attached to that so that the things that go into that vision have a place.
100%.
And they make sense. I think that that's where it can get really easy to get caught up, especially in business sometimes, is it's like, it's so easy to continue setting those bigger goals. Like, we're going to hit this point, and then we got a bigger revenue goal, and then we need to move to an additional market, and then we need to hire this many more people. Like there's always a thing on that hamster wheel. And I think if you're missing the part of why are we doing this?
Right.
Or like, what is the lifestyle? What is the goal? What's the thing that we're optimizing for? It's really easy to let the goals become the target. You know what I'm saying? Like it's easy to let like the metrics and all of that stuff. It's easy to just get lost in that and forget like, okay, let's zoom out a little bit and figure out why we're doing this in the first place.
Right.
Like if it takes us X amount to get from 10 million to 100 million, like what if we're super happy at 10 million and our lives suck at 100 million? Let's just hang around right here.
Yeah.
Or if our lives suck at 10 million, like, yeah, work your ass off to get to 100, knowing that that's going to be like the thing that you're working towards.
Right.
But I think that it gives that work a place to actually sit. And so it doesn't feel as much like work. It feels more like a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, like, right. Like a mission or a goal without a plan is just a dream. Right. Like, and that's where I think it's hard to be is like, and, I think our level of discomfort, right? And this is one of the things that like I really try to push kids to do is dream more, right? Like I'll always sit down with them and be like, dude, like if you could play anywhere, where would it be? And they'll be like, like local schools, I want to play at like Montana State. I'm like, so like if Alabama recruited you, you don't want to go there? I'm like, well, no, I want to. I'm like, dude, like that's what I'm asking you. Like dream, like what is the biggest dream? Like where could you go? Right. And then like from there, you like to your point, you work backwards. Like, hey, if Alabama were to recruit you as an outside linebacker or a safety, right? Like we know the genetic landscape of who they recruit, right? Like, okay, like let's look at it, right? Okay, here's what they squat. Here's what they run. Here's what like, now that kind of gives me an idea of what we need to program for, right? And then from there, once we have that idea of what we program for, then you kind of look at it like, okay, this program looks a lot different as a freshman coming in and having this conversation versus a junior.
Right.
Right.
For sure.
And then from that end, like, okay, to your point, like, let's narrow it down even further, right? Like, this is what your week would look like if this is your goal. So if you're telling me this is truly your goal, like, this is what, like, this is your day, like, this is your week, this is what you're going to do for the next 2 years. Are you willing to make that sacrifice? Right. Like, or they're like, no, like, I want to be able to enjoy like weekends and stuff. And I'm like, didn't say you couldn't.
Right.
I just am saying like, if this is what you truly want, right? Like, then this is what it's going to take. And some kids are willing to make that. Some kids aren't. And it's not that we treat any other kid differently than the other. It's just like, right, like having realistic expectations. But like also too, don't come to me and say, I want to play at a like top 5 SEC school. and then have a work ethic that like you're barely walking on to like Little Sisters of the Poor, right? Like you like then it's just an honest conversation of like, hey dude, like if you just want to work out, like we have a class for that. Like don't put all of this external pressure on yourself to do something that like maybe your parents dream, or maybe something that sounds really cool when you have conversations with friends, but you really don't want. And like, dude, like I'm not going to think anything less of you. You're still going to be a valuable member of this gym community, but like also too, like don't bear that weight on your shoulders, brother, because it is brutal. Right. Like, and at the same time, like that's where it kind of goes back to like, if you have a plan and that's truly your goal, like, and you want to do that day in and day out, like it's enjoyable, right? Like you enjoy the process. And that's where I think, you know, as games become, this is like another tangent of mine, but right, like as games become more and more pronounced from a standpoint of like, this is what kids do, right? Like kids don't enjoy the process because the game should be the reward. Yeah. Right. Like instead now there's like AAU basketball where they're playing 50 fucking games every summer. Right. Like, you know, I think like Legion starts now and runs to August and they're playing like 50 something games. Right. Like, where's the development? Like, right. Like how does a kid fall in love with a process if all the reward is constantly dangled? Like, hey, here's another game. Here's another showcase. Here's another game. Here's another showcase. And it's like, boom, 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 boom. Like one, the kid doesn't really develop. Two, there's no process. So when they come to us, right, or they get to a point, right, where, and we always say kids plateau is when athleticism and skill match, right? Like athleticism, we can increase in the gym, right? We continue to push that, skill will always rise with it. And that's kind of like the thinking of like Zach DeChant, he's down at TCU, but like that's a big piece. So like that's one thing that always hits home with me. It's like, dude, we can always increase athleticism, right? It's your job and your coach's job to increase a skill. Well, you don't increase skill by playing games. You increase skill by practicing, right? Slowing the game down, working on the fundamentals. Right. And that's what's gone with sports. But as soon as they want to play in college, guess what they have to do? Take all of these steps backwards, go completely against what, you know, societal norms have taught them, and then be like, hey, here it is. And then you wonder why, like, well, why didn't I start this earlier? I'm like, well, one, dude, I don't know if you had that dream as a freshman. Two, like, also, too, like, I don't know. Like, that's a conversation, right? Like, and, you know, what I've learned, you know, from a lot of this is that, like, as much as I love, like, the building and creating programs and, you know, working with teams and solving that type of puzzle, right? Like I will never get to what I enjoy unless I spend more time educating, right? And having, which is why like I took on coaching at senior high. Like if I'm not going to, like if people aren't going to change, like I got to help create and correct this. Interesting. You know, from that standpoint and like getting back to what we know is true, right? And like, and this isn't, you know, me saying this just because I want to go against the grain, right? Like, I mean, you listen to all of these great baseball players, football players, right? Hockey players, right? Like it's practice, it's work. It's like, they never say like, I played 752 games this year. Like, and that's what got me good. Like, no, they worked on everything outside of the sport so they can like, right. The sport is supposed to be the climax. Like it's supposed to be everything that you put together from all your preparation, all your work. And, you know, we kind of go back then to like the business side of things where that's where I think like the miss is like, there's so many people that are way smarter than I am, like from a business standpoint, like I could probably have taken Beartooth and made it way better, way faster, or even take it further. Right. But like, there's just this fear and it's right. It's more so of like, I'd rather, you know, play the game, right. So to speak, or like be at the top notch than like enjoy the process of what it would take to create something. Interesting. And right. And that, I think, and this is just me speculating, right? And I think that goes all the way back to like, as we were kids, right? Like, especially as this norm shifts. So like now I look at this and say, you know, as a younger entrepreneur, what makes me successful? It's like literally just work hard. Yeah. Like it's nothing crazy, right? Because there's so many adults my age that aren't really wanting to do the work because, right, they're more concerned about the game. Like, I enjoy the process. Like, that's what's fun for me. If I become, Beartooth hits the, like our goal is like we want to hit like the $3 million mark.
Yeah.
Right. Like if I hit that, like, cool. Like I'm just going to create a $5 million one. Like,
For
right.
sure.
Because like I enjoy the work. I enjoy
Yeah.
the process of building all of this, from that end. Like, and that's how do we do that as a society? But if I'm constantly pushing that growth, right, for our kids, right, for our employees, like we all become better people, better humans, right?
Right.
A better wife, a better husband, right? A better partner, a better friend. Just because like it's about the process. It's not me just checking a box and being like, hey, dude, like, oh yeah, I grabbed beers with Craig this weekend. Like I'm good for at least another month. Like
For sure.
no, dude, like I want to sit down and like tell me about your day, dude. Like how's work going? Like fill me in on some deets. Like, brother,
Yeah.
like I want the juicy shit.
That's such a good point, because like I think that people get caught up in the game, like you said, is like, and the game could be that $3 million day. It could be if you put on some big event, like how big the event attendance is and all of these things. But the thing that's funny about it is like you never wake up and have a day where you wake up and make $3 million.
Right.
Like the way that you make $3 million is when you show up and you've got a great attitude when you're at the gym and you connect with a kid. And then 3 weeks later, that kid is like telling a story about a little nugget that you gave him. Right. And that kid tells his parents, and his parents go, well, fuck, you should probably be training there.
Right.
Right. But it's like, it's all of these little moments where it's like the intentionality that you put into programming and the intentionality that you put into the people that you hire so your culture is good and the interactions that you have. And I think it is so tricky, because if you're constantly like pushing towards the goal and it's like, nope, we just need to like, get this many members in and we need to make this many sales, which means we need to run these ads, and it becomes just a money game. I think that, to your point, the only thing that you're focusing on is that end game of like $3 million, and you're only playing the game.
Right.
Like the practices, the little moments, the adjustments to culture, like all of the things that are actually like intrinsically make it a good place to be. And I think when you focus on those, like, the 3 million to just show up because you did all the right things on the way to get there.
Right.
But one of the things I love about the way that you talk about training and all the different things is it sounds like it's very centered around like a reward that comes from helping people. So like the way that you talk about it is like, we're helping kids achieve these dreams of playing SEC baseball or of doing all these different things. And it sounds like there's a big reward for you in just like being a part of people's journey. And I want to know how that's like evolved since the beginning of Beartooth and what that feels like, that's kind of like a big part of what you do.
So it's funny. Like I had a question. So as you kind of, I had an opportunity, like once I finished my master's, of working with like higher level athletes, more collegiate, professional, traveling, like leaving Billings and going and like doing that full time. Mm-hmm. And I just remember like talking to my wife, like, and like, not that like it 100% was not an insult, but like I spun it in my mind. I was like, why would I go train them when I can build them?
Interesting.
Like, right. Like, and that's always been kind of like my philosophy of like, I had a buddy that's high up in Rawlings, and back when Rawlings kind of got into the football arena a little bit, right? Like he was like, and I had just moved to Montana. He's like, do you know per capita Montana's the biggest football state in the United States? And I was like, no, Texas. And he goes, no, like per capita, dude, like understand what that means. And I was like, oh yeah, I know. And I had to
Google it.
I had to Google it. I'm like, per capita. Right. So like, and then these things, and then like, right, like as we start high school baseball, right, like Billings constantly sends a team, right? Like they win Montana and they are sending a team to California pretty much every year.
Right.
Right. And then you look at like how many kids actually go out and leave Billings, either one, play at the Legion, right, or high school level, and then two, actually leave here. So it's not like kids don't enjoy baseball or aren't good at it or aren't willing to work at it, right? It's just like this weird thing of like, we either like burn them out because it's all about the games.
Right.
Or, right, like it's just like, hey, they're done, and we force feed, right? Like you can't play baseball and football. You can't do this sport and this sport, right? Like
becomes a job.
Yeah, and coaches aren't willing to work with each other, which then it falls on the kid, right, to make a choice. And then, right, they hear through all social media that they like play multiple sports and all this stuff, and that's another complete tangent. But my biggest thing is like kids and like, from a strength and conditioning standpoint, like the questions that I always get with coaches is like, kids just don't dream enough, right? Like kids don't like, if you were to ask a young kid, like, right, like, I mean, we're shooting threes into trash cans and yelling Kobe, right? Like, yeah. I mean, our whole life is sports, right? And we understand the benefits. We as parents are like, we want to push them because we understand playing on a team, hard work and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, like, it's no longer about the growth, right? Like whatever happened to Y ball and basketball and just playing basketball just for the sake of basketball, right? Like that's a multi-sport. Like, but now if you want to play basketball, it is at like you either got to play AAU and you're going to showcases, right? And it's all this pressure on a 13-year-old that may not even want to play basketball, but they're doing it because it's supposed to help them be a better volleyball player, right? So like coaches don't ask enough questions of like, what is your dream? Like, what do you aspire to be? Like, right? Like, and then like when you actually sit down across from a kid and have that conversation and like get them to open up and really start talking about it, dude, like there is not a wall that I would not run through for that kid. Like, I mean, like, cause right, like they're looking at you, like it is like their most vulnerable state. Like they're telling you their dreams that they probably wouldn't tell a friend because, right, if they fail nowadays, guess what happens? They're going to get ridiculed, right? Like they won't tell parents because, right, like parents or teachers, right? Like we're just like, I'll have a conversation with a parent and they're like, so-and-so is not very good. Like we just want him to be healthy. And I'm like, he's fucking 13 years old. Like, do you know what he's going to look like when he's 18? Like I don't. Like if he started now, that's 5 years of training. Like if we train 3 days a week, like fuck, you do the math.
Yeah.
Right? Like I can make a lot of changes in 5 years working 3 days a week. Like, so it's just one of those things that like, so kids don't really dream anymore, right? Like parents don't, they want to have like more realistic conversations. But like, again, it goes back to the balance conversation. Like really, you're going to fucking stunt your only 4 years your kid is going to have to enjoy sports down even less because he may not play college or professional, like across his lifespan, that's the decision you want to make. Like, and and so like when you, like I said, like when you get kids to open up and say, hey, like I want to do this, I'm like, fuck yeah, dude, let's defy odds. Like I'll go like, I mean, there's kids like I'll have like, hey, my dad, like we're going to go fishing. Instead of training at this time, can we train at 3 a.m.? I'm like, fuck yeah.
Nice.
Let's go, dude. Like if you really, as a high school student, and you want to train at 3 a.m., motherfucker, I'll set my alarm. Like, well, let's go. Like, damn. I have no problem doing that. Like, or like last night I had Maya Hansen back from Boise State, like coming in at 7:00 at night. Like yeah, like you want to fucking train and get better. Like I'm not gonna be one to say no to you. Like that's not my job. Like, and so like too, like my hope is like as I do this, like, kids will see, right? And there's a lasting impact of like what a conversation can mean to a kid, right? Like getting a conversation, like getting a kid to dream, like what that actually means to them. And like, I mean, it's a joke. Like some kids laugh. Like I'll have a kid warming up on a runner and, it was the other day, like, she's 9 years old. I'm like, you gonna play in the professional soccer league? And she's like, oh, no. And I'm like, why not? She's like, you think I could? I'm like, shit, that's more up to you than it is me. Like, I'll provide you all the tools from my knowledge and expertise, but like, why couldn't you?
Right.
Like, and that's like a 9-year-old, like already like done. Like, no, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm
interesting.
Like, let's go. Like, right. Like, and I don't know, like, I don't want to knock on, parents, teachers, right? Like I think it just becomes a hard piece of like kids, like the daydreaming, the aspirations don't go, but like, that's what fuels work. Right. Like, and we complain like, I have other friends that own businesses and they're just like the workforce, like they just don't work. And I'm like, well, why do you work? Well, I got this. Like, so you're telling me you got a dream, something, a bigger purpose, and that drives this. Like, none of your workers know how to do that, right? Well, they don't know how to have like, I sit down and I'm like, anyone that's interested, all of our interns, I'll be like, what do you want to do? Like paint a picture of what your life looks like. Like you got a fucking Rolls Royce, like you got a Rolex, like what's on, like paint that for me, dude. Like, and then if they're like, this is what I want, I'm like, then let's get there. Like, I'll help you. Right? Like, why wouldn't I? Like, let's do this, dude. Like, let's go. Like, and they're like, you think I can? I'm like, dude, if you're willing to do the work, like same thing. It's just it's iron out a plan. Like,
right.
Hey, this is what this looks like. This is how we do this. Here's how this is. Like, and I could teach you how to program, how to like, you know, onboard, do an assessment, whatever it might be. Like that shit's the easy stuff. But like getting people to dream and like want to go, like that's the hardest thing these days, I think.
Interesting. What do you think it takes to get somebody to break out of their shell and actually start to dream?
Oh, fuck it. Relentless. I am relentless. I will ask the same question 50 different ways, 50 different times, you know, like, and it just, but it takes that, right? Because they're so conditioned because like, right, they don't want to say it. And, you know, eventually I'll ask enough and like, right, like each session we work with, like if the first time they don't get it, like I'll eventually get it out of them. Like there's one kid I train and I'm like, he wants to play basketball in college. Started with him as a freshman. Like I couldn't even get him to answer and like talk during our first initial like sit down. Like his mom and dad did most of it. And like finally we started training. I'm like, I finally like, I just was like constant. I'm like, dude, I'm just going to keep on asking questions, brother. Like I have no problem talking.
We're both here for an hour,
like,
man. We got to fill
like,
space
dude, like, and guess what? Like, and that's the other thing is like, I don't really like, whatever I program, we do. So it might take us an hour and a half. It might take us 2 hours. Like I'm not going to cut shit out. Like just because we're at our hour, like we might be here for 3 hours today. Like I'm willing to
and
do
you're going
it.
to answer this damn question.
Like, 100%. And then like finally, like they'll laugh and like they'll start to kind of open up and then like they'll like throw something out like a safe, right? Like, oh, I want to play basketball here. And I'm like, why? I don't know. I'm like, well, so I don't know. You just told me that's where you want to play basketball. Like, why? Right? Like, and it's like, okay, like what's like, would you not want to go here? Like you want to go play with Paige at UConn? That would be so awesome. I'm like, so UConn. Well, I don't really like UConn. I like Virginia, right? Like, and then all of a sudden, like now we're having this conversation. So like, if you could play anywhere, like you wanted to go there. And they're like, yeah, I just like, I love the coach. Like, right. Like, and then they start going through, but and every kid's different. It takes time, but that's where like, you know, there's really no conversations really, right? Like it's school, right? What are kids taught to be at school? Like sit down, be quiet, do your work and move on. Yeah. Right. Like,
get good grades,
right. Like it's again, the game, right? Like as opposed to like understanding like why, like what we're doing, like, hey, like if like, again, like if you sat there and sat a kid down and was like, I want to play for X school, like cool. Like, well, you're going to need like a 3.5 to get there. Like I guarantee they'd be a lot more motivated to get that 3.5.
Oh, for sure.
Than you just being militant and being like, get good grades. Like
you have to get your homework done. Yeah.
Get your homework done now. Like I don't have to tell you, like,
right.
They do it. Like, right. Like, and I mean, and then there's like right, like rules versus standards, right? Like rules are for people that like are meant to break them, right? Like standards is just a culture. Like this is a standard of what is expected within this household, right? As I raise kids, right? This is a standard for my employees. This is a standard for our athletes. Like, right. Like, I mean, kids don't get good grades. Like I don't train them.
Yeah. I've never heard of that rules versus standards before.
Yeah.
How does something become a standard instead of a rule?
I think when you no longer have to like implement it, right? Like rules are implemented to stop a behavior. Standards are a way like, hey, this is what we do. Like, and it's done, right? Like you create this standard for yourself, right? Like this is what I'm doing because this is who I want to become, right? Like this is like, so for instance, our standard, our thought across, you know, at senior high baseball was next man up. That was our whole philosophy, right? Because in the game of baseball, right, like everyone wants to be the hero, but really in the game of baseball, there's not like you hand the ball off and you run the touchdown, right? Like you have to get on base, right? And then your only hope is the next man up does their job, right? And at that point, 2 or 3 people down the line are now finally getting the reward of the RBI or getting you across, right? Like,
yeah.
So like, unless you're willing to sacrifice yourself for the bigger purpose, right? The goal of what our team is right? Like offensively is the score,
right?
Like, then it really doesn't matter, right? Like, and that became kind of like, that was the standard of which we approached everything. Like, it's not about me, it's about you. Like,
gotcha.
It's the next man up. Like,
yeah. So rules are almost like externally enforced and standards are internally enforced.
Yeah.
Like you've bought into something.
And like, I mean, there will be rules that like start as rules that later become standards, right? Like, hey, this is just what it, like, I don't have like in our seniors did such a good job at senior, like there's things that I just don't have to implement anymore. Right after 1 year, and it's just crazy. Like, hey, here's my expectations. Right, I'm gonna I'm gonna follow through. Right, there's gonna be punishments, not because I hate you, but because I love you so much that like I know you guys want to succeed.
Yeah.
Right, and as an adult, we know better. Right, I've been through baseball. I've played high school baseball. I've played college baseball. Like, right, like I know what it takes to be successful. Right, and then it's a level of trust. Right, like so it's just this whole piece of like. Right, like you know, I have these comments like in questions with kids of like, you know, parents bring kids in and they're like, hey, like they just need to eat healthier. I'm like, well, like walk me through your diet. Right, like
what's sitting on the cupboards in the house right now?
Like like walk me through like what you like. Well, I'm busier. I'm like, so, and I don't say it this way. I'll be a little bit more direct here, but like, right, like. Your front lobe's fully developed and you can't make right decisions. And yet you're expecting a kid whose front lobe isn't fully developed to make right decisions. Like, do you understand like what's going on here? Like, cause this is weird now. Oh my God, I'm at a loss for words here. You know, like, so it's just one of those things. Like, so as parents, like it's okay to say, hey, like kind of like I told you so, like, right? Like because I am the adult, right? Like I know this, but also too, like it has to come from a place of love,
right?
And trust. And that has to be built. That has to be knowing that like, right? Like I'm going to do it with you, right? Like I'm going to sacrifice things just as much as you guys are. Like we are in this together, right? And like you do that, right? Like kids want to succeed, right? Like they're not like, I want to piss off my parents. I want to piss off my coach. Like no kid wakes up and is like literally hits like, I'm going to choose violence today.
Yeah.
You know, like eventually something happens that like causes them to go down that road. But right, like some of those kids become your biggest success stories like down the road because all they want to do is be heard. Like, like, dude, like, what do you want to do? Like, right. Like, oh, I want to do this. Like, okay. Like, then you understand why these decisions are hard for me to understand because what you're telling me and what you're doing are just two different things. Like, explain it to me.
Yeah.
Well, I did this. Like, okay, so like, how do you like? So like, walk me through that. Like, how do we get past that piece where we're not making that decision again? Well, I guess I need to go to school more. I'm like, dude, it's really that simple, brother. Like, it's not a big thing of like, hey, like, or like, as opposed to me going and be like, hey, you're not starting today because you didn't go to school. So like, if you don't go to school, you're off the team. Like, is that kid going to start going to school? He'd be like, fuck you, Dayne. Like,
yeah, seriously. And then it becomes an act of rebellion against you where it's like, you told me to go to school and I don't really like you the way you're talking to me right now. So fuck you. I'm not going. Yeah.
Like, and then like, guess what? Like that kid's way worse now.
For sure.
Right. Like, so it's
that's crazy.
And that's where I think like, the hardest piece of all of this becomes is like, how do you connect, right? Like, how do you connect with adults? And it's the same thing, right? Like, you know, most people come in, they're like, I need a diet plan and a workout plan. I'm like, okay, so if you were to lose 5 pounds, what would you do right now? Right? And most of them have a pretty good idea, right? Like, I'd probably not drink as much. Right? Okay. Like, there's one, like, what else? And they're like, well, like I eat a lot of snacks, like, and they're not healthy, right? Like I'm an Oreo machine, or like for me, like, you know, my crux is cookie dough. So it's like, you know, one of those things where you're just like, I got to cut that out, not do that as much. Like, okay. So like, really, you know what it takes to lose weight. It's just, right, like the accountability, right? Like it's someone to say like what you're doing is right.
Yeah.
Right? Like kind of going back to high school, right? Like you know what's right because this is what they're giving you. And right, like no strength coach is going to give you something that's wrong, right? Or at least not on purpose, right? So like there's trust there. Like, hey, like this is what I'm going to do. Like I know what to do. Like most people day and age, like, I mean, especially with Chat GPT, like you fucking go in there and Google like, I want to lose weight in 5 pounds in 2 weeks. Like, how do I do this? Right. And it'll, boom.
Yeah.
Right. Like, but also too, like, we're still the most obese nation in the world. Like, so it's obviously technology isn't necessarily helping us, right? Putting it at our fingertips isn't helping us because it's not about 5 pounds, right? It's about the process, right? Like, how do we make changes that are more sustainable, right? Like, you lose 5 pounds in 2 weeks. Like, what is it sustainable? Is that really sustainable? And that's something that, like, Anna does a phenomenal job on, right? Like, oh, I like wine. Like, cool, drink glass. Like why, like, remove it, right? Like,
right.
If that's something you're going to do, but like, then let's be realistic with our goals, right? Like, we just might have to push out our weight loss a little bit because, right, like, we're going to make choices. Like, I'm never going to tell you not to do something. Yeah. Right. Like, I'll just be honest with you and be like, hey, if this is the timeline you want to meet, like, this is going to be hard.
I think that's cool too, because it also has a lot to do with like the dreaming thing that you were talking about earlier, because not only are kids not being asked their dreams now, whether it's sports or life or whatever, but also those same kids then grow up and whether it's professionally or whatever else, they're just not asked like, how do you want to look? How do you want to feel? What do you want your family life, your business life, whatever to look like? It's just like, so instead you check the boxes. Yeah. You check the boxes of like, I guess I'll stay in pretty good shape. I guess I'll get a pretty good job. I guess like kind of do whatever you're supposed to do. But I think it's interesting because you probably get a lot of people that come in the doors with goals that they have that might not be like a long-term dream. Like you said, 5 pounds in 2 weeks, or I want to get shredded for the summer. I want to get whatever. Like, there's versions of that, but how do you take that and help somebody who maybe isn't a high school athlete, who doesn't have a D1 scholarship or a professional career to chase? How do you get them to develop that vision or develop that dream that allows them to start actually making those changes and like actually doing something with that information that you give them at the gym?
So, right, like, usually when people come in with like a pretty, like, I want to do this, it's more so around the lines of like that's a small piece of the puzzle, right? So it's getting them to understand like a bigger picture, like, right, like, yes, losing 5 pounds, but like, what, like, why, like, what does that do? Like, right, like, I don't know what 5 pounds means to you yet. Yeah. Right, like, so there has to be that level of understanding, right? And again, like, getting them to like dream, think a little bit further outside the box. Like, what is 5 pounds? Like, and why does it have to be 2 weeks? Mm-hmm. Like, can it be in 2 months from now? Like, right? Like, like, you ask those questions, and then ultimately you get to the same point of like, okay, well, like, if this is truly what you want to achieve, like, here are things that I would change, right? And like, some people, right, like, their journey may start at a completely different piece. Like, I had a personal training client, I mean, for years, right? Like, what we built off of was like, she would come to the gym because, right, like, she knew what she needed to do. Yeah. Right. It was just more of the accountability, and we'd go for a walk.
Oh, interesting.
Right. Like, we'd go for like a 30, 45-minute walk, and we would just walk, and we would talk, we'd have conversations. It was awesome. Right. But like, and then like from there, we did that for a while. Right. Then like, right, like, that become a custom. And then once that becomes the norm, right, like, hey, you got your 3 walks. If you want me to do it with you, I'm more than happy to, but like, you got it now. Mm-hmm. Right. Like, now our 2 days, we're going to drop down to 2 days, but like, I'm going to add some, like, we're going to bike. Yeah. Right. We're going to add some like lunges, right? Some movement into it. Right. And then it just progresses. But it took me, right, understanding what her overall goal was and having her being like, well, then I'm going to iron out a plan for you. Right. Right. Like, yeah. And it's the best plan that anyone could ever write is the one they stick to. Right? Like, otherwise it really means nothing. I could be the world's best programmer, but if I give it to you and you don't do it because I have you waking up at 4 a.m. and doing a separate one at 8 p.m., right? And you're like, there's no way I can do that, right? Like, then it really doesn't matter how good I'm a programmer. But if you do something like, hey, I can do this consistently at 3 every day because that works with my schedule, it may not be as well written. It may not be as smart as what I wrote, but guess what? You're going to get 10 times better results out of it. Yeah. Right? Like,
yeah, man. That's one of the biggest questions I had going into this is that I suffered from this too. We talked a little bit off camera that like once you get done playing sports or you get done doing whatever, you lose that structure that you used to have of like, here's your workout for the next 4 months. This is the cycle we're going to do. All you have to do is show up and like you're going to be in better shape in 4 months and you're going to be ready to go. I didn't realize how good I had it until after I got out of sports, and I just been in shape since I was 13 because I was always doing shit. But I think that once I got out, I realized how much noise there is when it comes to what you're supposed to be doing. Like when you don't have a coach, when you don't have somebody writing your programming, there's so many different things, so many different avenues you can go with your routines for nutrition, so many different ways you can go for like fitness training and stuff like that. How do you help people cut through that noise and get to that point where, you know, like you just said, this works for you because it's at 3 every day, because you've got this many days that are available? Like, how do you help somebody cut through that noise?
So the hardest thing is like, there in the strength and conditioning world, right? Like there is principles that like, we just know, like I cannot go against those principles.
Okay.
And one of them is specificity. Like I can't do that. Right. Like, and so one of the things that I try to get people to do is understand is like, hey, here's a very generic program, right? They're all over social media, right? The web now.
Right.
Is that program good? I have no idea. It's not really specified for any one particular, it's just a general program that's written. What makes it beneficial, right, is that it's handed to you on your phone. You can do it at any time that you enjoy, right? Like now it becomes like very specific to you, right? Like that is one of the hardest things that people have to understand is that like it's not typically the program, right? It's more so the ability to like say, hey, this is what it is, right? Like go back to football, right? Your school schedule was probably written around your football practices and your lifts.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? Like,
yeah.
And if there wasn't, here's another time that you're going to lift, right? Like that works with your schedule. Like it's ironed out for you. So it works well because it's just specified specifically for you.
Right.
And that becomes like the piece. So like when we look at these principles, like what makes something like, how do you clear out the noise is like, one, is this something that like I'm willing to follow and why? Right? Like it's not a glimmer of like, right, like me doing like an RDL with a camera angle at the right angle so you can see, all the good stuff, right? Like it's more so of like, hey, here's something cool. Like, oh, that guy does awesome bar muscle-ups. I want to get better at bar muscle-ups. Like what works for me isn't going to work for you.
Right.
Right? Like, so you have to like, typically if you see something that's really cool, I want to try it, like just run the other direction.
Interesting. So what you're saying about specificity for people is that instead of trying to find the perfect program, it's finding a program that you can actually like stick to and that fits into your schedule.
Yep. Like, cause like, right, like specificity could be anything, right? Like I'm going to like, hey, we have athletes that come in and adults that come in with shoulder pain, right? Like we're going to change that movement for you, right? Like now that is specific for you, right? Like, so there has to be that level of specificity across any program, right? The more, specific it gets, the better it is, right? Because like, right. And that goes back to the thing of like, I'm going to follow this program that I found off the internet.
Yeah.
Right. It works with my program, but eventually like we know things like as you work and you push, like nicks, bruises, those things are going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Like the answer is not to stop because then it gets 10 times harder. The question is like, how do you specifically alter this, right? Some people have the knowledge to be like, hey, here's the stressor that we're trying to go. Here's the, the premise behind why this is written in there. Mm-hmm. And thus I can understand like, okay, this is a good modification, right? The hard thing is like, we kind of go back, like we talked about off topic is like chest versus checkers, right?
Yeah.
I might go from back squats to front squats or like a Zercher squat, like from back squat, because I noticed like, hey, our athletes have a really hard time maintaining posture in that squat, right? So it's not so much leg strength. It's more, I need to also increase like mid upper back strength, right? And posture. So from that end, I changed the squat. I still want to get legs stronger. It's just not going to be as strong, but I also need to maintain this posture things because of what I have planned down the road.
Gotcha.
Right. So,
but it's not that you're stopping squatting altogether because their posture sucks.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Right. Like where someone might be like, oh, they're front squatting. I'm just going to back squat instead because that doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
Right. Like, but if the plan is to eventually build upper back strength because what they have now, back squat isn't going to help you.
Uh-huh.
Right. Like it's not the same stimulus. So that's where like, not that online programs, like they 100% serve their purpose, but like if there's not someone interacting with you, then it's hard, right? Like if someone were to say like, hey, like can I do back squats today? Like, right, our coaches be like, no, like here's a better modification. This will elicit kind of the same stress, the same idea, the same stimulus of what we're trying to get out of this for you, because, right, like we also are going to have another cycle after this, right? Movements are going to change and cycles build off of each other. So, you know, that's where like sitting down and having like a plan. So we talk about athletes, like there's certain times when where I want them to peak, right? Like the way I write Beartooths is, right, like, well, I mean, I like them to peak during summer, right? Like everyone, like clothes start coming off, right? Like people want to look good. So like they're in season, right? When they should be the most slim, right? The strongest is our summer months, right? Like you can kind of see the change of like, there's a little bit more conditioning kind of leading into the summer months, right? Like we're starting to slim down a little bit. So like, cause I want people to look good, right? When they have a chance to. And then as soon as summer ends, right? Like, it's more strength. It's a little less cardio, right? Like, because now we're in the summer months, we're just building back and it kind of follows through.
Okay.
But like, if that overall annual plan isn't written, sat down, distinguished, and then I have built all of these like microcycles within it all, then it's really hard to follow through, right? And then it's hard to provide a modification because you don't know what's going to come
the end
next,
goal is.
right?
Okay.
So you talked about your friend or sister, like, right, that bought the 9-week.
Like
right,
gets an online program.
Yeah, like it's 9 weeks,
results,
and they do it for 9 weeks, and they're like, all right, what's next? Like, do I just do that again? Like, right? Like, and then it becomes a money grab. Like, hey, here's the next program, right? Like,
you give it a cute name. You give it like whatever.
Like, hey, Booty Blaster 2.0, and then we have 3.0, 4, like, right? And it's really the same program. It just like progresses, right? And that's one of the other principles, right? Like, progressive overload is one of the main things that we have to do.
Okay.
So, right, like you really break it down from that end. And so it's not so much like what I know versus other people know, right? It's just principles. And then it's just like, does this fit what I'm trying to do? Like, right? Like, does this fit what I'm trying to accomplish? Right? Like, and if it does, like, right, like that's the hard thing with adults is that like you kind of write generically so you can, you know, get a bunch of people, and you try to make it fit for that, right? Specificity gets a little bit harder, right? I want to get better at, you know, bar muscle ups or gymnastic pulling, right? Well, if that's not in this 6-week cycle, like you might be like, well, I don't like this gym, right? Like I want pull ups, right? Where it could have been in the cycle before or the cycle after, right? So like that's like, so going back to your question of like the 5 pounds, it's like, okay, let's understand, like if it's weight loss, let's understand what that journey looks like, right? Like let's understand the ebbs and flows, just like anything. Like I can't just pull nonstop, like, right? Like I need to balance out, like pull with a press, right? Like there's things that we have to do through, right? Like, and if all I want to do is like, I focus on my first pull up, right? Like you see all these people add all of this extra pulling motion. And then the next thing they're like, hey coach, I got like anterior shoulder pain. I'm like, well, yeah, flex your lat, like, that's an interior rotator, like, right? Like no wonder you're putting a shit ton of pressure on your anterior shoulder, right? And you had pressing, like all this stuff. It just like, it's just a perfect storm right there. So it's like, again, it kind of goes back to that chest. Like you have to understand an overall picture. And most people, like if you provide a roadmap, like, hey, here's where you're at, right? Like here's our expectation of where we would like you to be, right? Like along this way, you're going to lose your 5 pounds, right? Like here's how we plan on doing it. Here's how we move things forward. And it becomes like, that's very individualized. Yes, we might use a group class to help you get there, right? Like, but also it could be personal training, right? It could be a combination of the two. It could be like, hey, here's some things that like, you know, I challenge you, right? Like I do it to all my personal training clients, or, you know, like class members are like, hey, I'm just not doing this. I'm like, hey, like 2 times a week, I want you to do this. Like,
go for that 45-minute walk, or, you know, like cut one night of drinking out or whatever the thing is.
Do something like challenge. But then it's like, right, like there's this follow-up. Then it's just having conversations, right? Like, and it just comes back to, you know, that level of understanding on like what we're trying to do and what we're trying to help these people aspire. Because, right, like as soon as they do it, I'm like, hey, like, how are things? Like, oh my God, I got it. I'm like, and then my next question is like, so what are we going to do next?
Ready for the next 10 pounds then?
Yeah. What is our next piece? And they're like, well, I don't know. Like I gotta, you know, I'm playing a lot of golf this summer. Like, cool. Like here's like add some rotation into your day.
For sure.
right? Like,
Yeah.
so it's just those kind of things that you go through, and it's, again, like, obviously my dad was a big influence on my life, but like one of the biggest things in the restaurant business that he always tried to establish was, meet and or exceed people's expectations. Like, that's my goal in life, right? Like, and that's something that I want to do, like, throughout the gym, right? Like, but if I don't have conversations, right, don't get to know you, I'll never meet your expectations.
Yeah.
And thus I can never exceed them.
Right.
Right. Like, so now it kind of stems through of like, right, like back to the culture piece, right? Like all our coaches are super friendly. They talk to everybody.
Yeah.
Like, almost to a point where I'm like, hey,
yeah.
like, guys, like, we got to get the class going here, type thing sometimes. But like, at the same time, like, that's what I want. Like, I want our members to like feel like they're having a conversation, right? Like, I want our coaches to have conversations because, right, they go back and be like, hey, so-and-so just did this. Like, and then I can shoot them a text. I'm like,
right.
Dude, I just heard this. Like, is this true? And they're like, oh God, I forgot to tell you. Like,
yeah,
fuck yeah, like, let's go, man. Or like, hey, like, so-and-so just like drove the ball further than their husband or whatever. I sent a text.
Right.
I'm like, all right, sweet. Like, let's go. Like, Kate and I versus you and your husband. Like, let's get a date plan, like double date plan. Like, or I guess the kids call it 2-man or whatever it is now. But, like, it's kind of those conversations that like go through, and then it's right. Like, then it's a culture, right? Like, and then they do it, right? And then our members ask these questions of other members, and it's really not anything other than like, right? Like, kind of going back to like, it's the next man up. It's not about me. It's you, right? Like, our business, our livelihood as us as humans is more stemmed around the people around us, right? Like, we're wired that way. We're designed that way. Like, and yet like we try to do things like, I want to work out on my own. Like,
yeah.
Right. Like, or I'm going to do this on my own. Like, dude, like, I talk to people all the time, like other business owners, like, hey, like, what do you do this? And like, to a point where like, sometimes I have to clarify with my wife, like, hey, this is me ranting right now. Like, I'm really not looking for input. Like, I just need to get a bunch of shit off my chest. Like, and other times I'll be like, okay, you got a second? Like, we need to sit down and I need your help. Like, right. Like, there's like, you have those pieces, like, and, we need each other, right? More so, like, I need the people around me way more than they probably need me. Right. And the way that I've like put that in there is like, hey, like, so, but like, how do I provide impact then? Right. Like, right. Like, so then now I'm a little bit more inquisitive, right? Like, it just kind of becomes that piece of where, like, how do we constantly evolve where if I help you achieve your things and you help, 2 other people achieve theirs.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
you just impacted 3 people.
Yeah. Like, right. Yeah. Like, we just, like, there's 3 people down the line that we just made a positive impact through. And how is that not better for this community?
For sure. Yeah. I think, so I'm trying to, in my brain, I've been trying to like distill a little bit for the people who, again, are like facing that noise, whether it's a business owner or whoever that is. And it sounds like picking something that is specific to their goals, right? Like, somebody who's going from trying to go from 300 pounds back down to 220 might need a way different program than somebody who's starting at 155 pounds and wants to finally put muscle on and walk around at 185 or whatever.
Yep.
So it sounds like maybe one of those principles might be find something that can be specific for what your goals are.
Yeah.
Not just a boilerplate, like do these lifts, do these runs, do whatever. It sounds like there's a big piece also in kind of like giving yourself credit for being able to modify things if you need to. So instead of like, this program's got a lot of pulls in it and now my shoulder hurts. It's like, give yourself the credit to be able to make that adjustment so that you can continue to do the program instead of just skipping everything altogether. And then as you talked about it the most, and this is something that I've really felt over the last couple of years, is like, it sounds like there's a ton of benefit in being somewhere where you've got some level of coaching, whether it's group fitness classes or personal training or sometimes there's online training where your personal trainer will have you send in videos or whatever the thing is. Am I missing anything else for something that people should look for if they're trying to figure out what's going to work for them?
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing is like, vet out things like, right. Like, to your point, like, right. There's gotta be a level of like comfort, right, on your end that their goals are your goals, right? And that goes back into, right, like owning a business, right? Being a teacher, being a coach is, right, like, even though like my goal is to win X, right? If I don't achieve my players' goals,
Yeah.
I definitely don't achieve mine, right? Like if my goal is X with a business or X, like I have 150 members, right? Like that I got to put before myself,
Right.
before I can do this. And, like the biggest thing, like I said, as we look through this is, right, like, going back to COVID where, everyone was kind of on their own island and plateau. Like, right, like this is when we saw like this huge rise and tick of like just a level of normalcy that's just gone, right? Like there's no more social norms, there's nothing. And, so when people start off, it is 100 times easier to do it with people, right? So to your point, with a coach, with a friend, with, finding like getting into like, whether it be group fitness, like, right, like something, do it with something, because then it's no longer this daunting piece of like, I got to wake up, I got to motivate to go to this, and then I got to follow this workout, right? Like, I don't really know what these movements are, like nothing, right? Like there's so much, like it's easier to do it when you're by yourself, right? Like when you have a community, when you have people, right? Like, so-and-so, like you sign up and we see in, and like, if you don't show up for that class, like you're getting a text like, hey, like you showed up, you didn't, like, where were you today? And you're like, oh, fuck. Like,
so like accountability.
Yeah. Like, like, I mean, cause that's really what it comes down to, right? Like there's gotta be some level of accountability. And as much as we try to say like, hey, like, intrinsically motivated, I can do this on my own. Really, the accountability piece, like until it becomes a norm, someone's got to help you get there.
Yeah.
Right. Like 75 hard, right? And like Andy Frisella, like starting that, like, I mean, he's all about like this mental toughness, but also too, like you do 70 hard, like Andy's the one that got you there.
Right.
Right. Like you're doing it on your own, but you're following a process that he like laid out for you.
Interesting. Yeah.
Right. Like, so you know what I'm saying? Like there's always somebody, right? Like that you've heard, talk to, like, hey, like I did 75 hard. You're like, oh dude, I'm going to do 75 hard now. Like,
right.
You might be going through the journey alone, but like that conversation came from you and I.
And it's a connection piece now where like when we hang out and it's like, hey dude, why aren't you having a beer with us? Like, oh, I'm doing 75 hard.
You're like,
oh shit, tell me about it, bro. Yeah. Like I did it last year. Like what day are you on? How hard is it?
Yeah. So like, and I mean, like, so like there's those 6 weeks challenges, all those things. And, as much as we try to have conversation around like the level of importance of like, again, like long-term goals, right? Like having this view, which kind of then goes back to like another principle, right? Like that long-term athletic development. Like what are we trying to do long-term? Like that's our biggest knock on those 6 weeks is like, there's got to be something. Like, what is next?
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about that, because I think that I think a lot of people start with those challenges.
Yeah.
Like they'll go, okay, this is the year I'm finally going to get my health in order. I'm starting 75 hard on January 1st.
Yep.
Where do fitness challenges fit in with long-term health?
So they're hard, right? Because usually they're so restrictive.
Yeah.
Right. Which is why like, the 6 week like fat loss challenge where you're taking all these supplements, right? Like, and you can't eat X, Y, and Z. Like that's hard. Like that is very restrictive. So as soon as you're done, right? Like what do most people want to do? Like, give me a fucking beer, dude. Like I want some beer and I want a cake.
I had 3 donuts the day after my 75 hard was over.
Right. Like, because like it was so restrictive, but like also too, like you look at 75 hard and what that is designed to do. Like that's not a weight loss challenge, right? That's more of
it's a discipline challenge.
It's a discipline challenge. Like, can you discipline yourself, right? Like you have those 3 donuts, right? The day after, like when was your next one?
A while after, for sure.
Right. Like, like, I mean, there's time there, right? So like there was changes that you implemented that like now change, right? Like the goal is of like 75 hard isn't the 75 days. The goal is like, hey, through 75 days, like I've learned. And if out of that, I pick up and I read 10 pages, everything afterwards, like then that 75 hard was successful.
Okay.
Right. Like I've picked up something that has become routine. Right. And that's one of the things that like, obviously like coming from St. Louis and Andy's from St. Louis. So there's that St. Louis connection there. But, like the biggest thing that I enjoy about Andy is that like, right, like he does 5 things every day, right? Like once those 5 things are done, he's done.
Yeah.
right? Like, but also too, like once something becomes routine, it can no longer be those 5 things, right? Like if my goal is to wake up every day at 4 a.m. to work out, once that becomes a routine where like that thing can no longer be on there, I got to add something else.
Interesting.
Right. Like, so again, it's building, right? Like, and that's the hard thing is like, with these 6 weeks challenge, with these 75, day hard, like, it's just like, what is next? Like, there's got to be that conversation that is like, what is next? And that's where, right, accountability, where someone with you, right, has to be a part of it. Like, right, like, again, like we're not designed to be alone.
Right.
Right. Like we're designed to have interaction, to have our, our herd, our culture, like our community that surrounds us. So it's, hey, I'm gonna do the 6 weeks challenge, right? Like if someone comes in, it's like, I'm doing a 6 weeks challenge, like, cool. Like, all right, well, as soon as I finish, the next question is like, okay, so what did we learn?
Okay. So maybe the place that these challenges fit is like, you're going to take something from them to continue to work into your life afterwards.
Yep.
So it's less about you're going to lose X percent of body fat and gain X percent of muscle, and then you're going to like wonder what's next afterwards. It's like do the thing, get the lesson, and then take a nugget from it and integrate it going forward.
Yeah. And it goes right back to right. We're more happy about the game.
Right.
Right. Like whoever loses the most wins. Right. Like, so you're just going to restrict, right? Like I could eat terribly, do a bunch of dumb shit and win that competition.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Right. Like, so it like, the 6 weeks challenge is again the game, right? Not the process. So how do we take a quote unquote game and make it more about a process, right? How do we build that to a point where like we know like what is next, right? Because like 6 weeks challenges, like 75 hard, like all those things serve a purpose. And if that kickstarts someone's journey to be healthier, I'm all fucking for it, right? But if it kickstarts someone to do a bunch of stuff that they shouldn't do, right? We do know from a nutritional standpoint, like rebounds are hard.
Right.
Right. And they usually come back with a fucking vengeance. Like you cut out like the thing, like cereal, cookies, whatever it is, as soon as you're done, like I ate a whole bag of Oreos, dude. Like, right. Like, and there was nothing to stop me, right? Like I buy Oreos, like I can't stop myself at 3. It's going to be the whole sleeve.
Right.
Right. Like, but if I restrict, like if I just have 2 or 3 every night, like what's wrong with that? Like,
right.
Like,
just find a way to integrate something else.
Yeah, like right, like or like, hey, like I noticed out of this 6 week challenge, like I didn't have dessert one night. Like, okay, so you can do it. Like, so you don't need dessert every night. Now, can you have dessert one night and be okay? 100%. One night isn't going to change anything.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so it's just like, again, like kind of going back, and I mean, this is, I guess, my biggest piece on what we try to do through the gym, right? What we try to do as people is all really just connected, right? Like getting people and kids to enjoy a process, getting adults to enjoy the process. Like, hey, like showing up and working out can be fun. Like, right, that could be part of the process. Like fall in love with that, right? Like we know that that's what all successful people do. Is they just love the process. The people that fall in and out of it, right? Like they're just more concerned about the game. I want to do this, right? And as soon as they get there, they don't know what's next, so they fall off, right? And like, I'll just say this just because it's comical to me, right? Like wrestlers are the worst, right? Like look at every wrestler. As soon as they're done wrestling, like they blow up, right? Because they've restricted so much for so long, and all of a sudden they're like, I don't have any reason to restrict anymore. Like, I'm gonna fucking mow down on everything, right? And then they do, and then they like, like I can't come back. Like I know what it takes to get back to that, and it's too hard, right? Like. Because you, again, like also too, like it's healthy, right? Like you don't have to lose weight the same way you lost it.
Yeah.
Right. Will it take a little bit longer? Sure. But like you don't have a wrestling match next week, dude.
Right.
Right. Like let's just start. Like, right. Like, and again, it kind of goes back to like, give me 2 days. Right. Like 2 days becomes the norm, right? Like, all right, let's add a third. But I don't want you to come in the gym. Like you could do that anywhere. So that way there's no excuse of like, oh, I couldn't have kids. Like, hey, 2 days. And then I want you to walk.
Right.
Like one day, right? Like,
I think that working out in a group is also super helpful when it comes to making sure that you're staying on the wagon with a lot of that stuff and falling in love with the process.
Yep.
Because so I graduated in 2021, stopped playing football in the spring of 22 because of that weird COVID year.
Okay.
So for a couple of years now, I went from working out with my team 24/7 to lifting alone in a public gym.
Right.
And we were getting at like shirts off, 6 a.m., ripping smelling salts between every set. Like we were like doing the damn thing. And it was like, there was like a culture around it. And even though I didn't want to be there at 6, like you've got your music playing, your boys are there and you're having fun. And that becomes part of the process that you love, is like, even the fact that I'm smiling, talking about doing all that shit is like, that's what I loved about it.
Right.
And so there have been times where it's been it can be very up and down for me when I'm lifting by myself. And so literally, I think 3 weeks ago now, I started training at Beartooth because I was like, I love when I go and train at jiu-jitsu and at boxing and stuff like that, because I get to go see my friends.
Right.
Like I run into all these people that I'm like, okay, I don't want to go today, but at least Maurice and Jason are going to be there and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And I think that that's one of the biggest benefits. And one of the reasons why I chose to start working out in a group is like, on those days where you really don't feel like going or anything like that, not only do you have the accountability, but you're like, yeah, but at least I'm going to be able to like run with Bert today, and that's going to be fun, you know, like, so I think that that's another piece too, that as people are looking for things to do, is like, find something that you can enjoy with somebody,
right?
You know, whether it's finding one workout buddy and you guys are going to work out at a gym, or going to something that's like a High Rocks or a CrossFit or a Performance Institute or whatever the thing is. I think it's huge.
No, and I mean, that really what it comes down to, right, is like, it's just doing something enough where like it's like a norm where, like, you know, like I said, like everyone has to start with somebody, like, and then like once it becomes a norm, like, do you need that person again? Like, no, like I know, like I'm going to work out at that time regardless, because like that's my day. My day is now set up for this. Yeah. Right. So if that person backs out, like it's not the end of the day, because I've built up that routine where like, you know, like in a class setting, right? Like if you rely on a workout partner at the gym, they don't work out and you're still in that, you know, beginning phase. You're like, okay, well, I won't go today because like they have the program, or X, Y, or Z is going to happen. Or like, I don't really know how to do a lot of stuff. Where, you know, like that class setting at least allows you of like, hey, so-and-so is not there, but there's also, I'm here with like 15 other people.
For sure.
And, you know, there's a coach, right? Like that's going to help me, right? Help me modify, go over a lot of the movements with me. Like that's easy, right? Like, and usually it's the other way around. Like, right? Like most of the things that we get is like, we'll get an email like, hey, like interested to start. Like, I just need to know, like, what do I need to do to prepare for this? And we're like, nothing, dude. Like that's why we do what we do, right? Like that's why we have the coaches. This is why like the standard of what I like expect out of my coaches is there. Like this isn't like you walk in and I'm going to absolutely like murder you. The goal is like, I want you to walk out, enjoy it, and then be able to come back the next day. Right. Like, and if clients can't do that, like now that's a conversation I have with my coach. Like, hey, like, understand the purpose of what we're trying to do here, right? It's long-term growth. Yeah. Right? Like it's not this short-term game, like I'm going to kill you. So I'd rather you come back and then we get an email like, that was just a little too easy. Like, cool. Like, obviously, like we mismanaged your training age or whatever it might have been, or, you know, your background. Like, you know, here's another free trial. Like, come back. Like, now they kind of have an idea, right? Here's another good day to come back on. Like, you know, like at least it's a I would much rather have that than people like, hey, like, how was it? And they'd be like, well, like, you know, I'm going to the hospital. Or like, hey, I can't move. I can't walk down the stairs. And I'm like, well, shit, like, do you need help? Like, you know, I kind of at a loss for words there. Like, shit, like, you know, that's a miss on our end. So like, that's where, like I said, like it just standards, all of these pieces, like it just like, that is my life, like day in and day out, regardless if it's interactions with clients, you know, kids, like my own, you know, staff, myself, wife, right? Like kids, like it's just, that's just who we are. It's what we do. We like to have fun. Like we, you know, still enjoy beers. Like, you know, it's just one of those things. It's like, that is where, you know, I think like you do that, then it's hard not to enjoy what you do. Like
for sure.
It's, you know, you end up just enjoying it like too much. And then it's like, you know, people are like, I'm like looking at Kate, I'm like, shit, I'm going to go down to the gym and like, I'm going to text a bunch of people like on a Saturday. Like let's all go down there. Like, you know what I'm saying? Or post in the social feed, like, hey, like I'm going to be down there. I'm going to put together a workout. Like, anybody want to come down? Like, you know, it's like those kind of things that you just like, that feels better, right? Like, cause it's not work.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
What I think is cool about your story is like, it seems like you've taken such a intentional path of figuring out a thing that is rewarding to you, right? Like, it seemed like you were kind of like pointed in the health space. You found something that fit really well. You're willing to take a career that was like, paid well and the whole thing, and be like, yeah, it's just not aligned. I'm going to create something that I like enjoy going to every day and that I feel rewarded by and stuff like that. And it seems like you've done a really great job of like finding the people and the things and the profession in your life where it just like allows you to do things that are intrinsically rewarding for you. And that like dream that we talked about earlier, it's just like, seems like you were able to pinpoint that and then actually reverse engineer it and actually do it. So like being able to speak on it now is so cool. And I think it's inspiring for people because they're like, well, if this dude could, get out of the golden handcuffs of medical sales, have a great marriage that helped him get into this new thing and like build a life where he wants to go into work on a Saturday and hit all of his homies up. Like, yeah, I just think that's a really cool story, man.
No, and I mean, I think that's like the biggest thing. And like, I mean, we talked about 75 hard and Andy, like, right. Like it's nothing more like, and that's, I go back to this like firm belief of like, we're all capable of like amazing things, right? Like just, I mean, again, like that's one of the hard things, like even as like scientific as I am with a lot of this stuff, like, like Bompa and all this stuff of like, hey, here's the human body, right? Like we're also created by God, like, right? Like, so there's something innate about us that like just no study, no science is ever going to fully understand. Mm-hmm. And so from that end, like, why can't you achieve whatever it is? Like, tell me why, like really, like why, like help me understand what it is. And like, from that end, like is if we can get kids to dream, right? If I can help with adults or, aspiring entrepreneurs of like, I'm not like this business savant, right? Like I haven't taken one business. I took some online classes after I opened this, yeah. Right? To figure out QuickBooks and all of this stuff. Like, I'm just like trying, I'm figuring out even still to this day, like I'm still trying to grow. Like I have a business coach, like I'm still trying to learn as much as I can. But like, from that process, like as we continue to do this, like it really is just like, if reverse engineer it, right? Like plan to work, like work your plan, like, right? Like, yeah, that is literally it. Like that, like you want the keys to success, like here you go. Like just work, right? Like, and if you do something, you find a business that you're passionate about and you can, right, like do it and like go and see, like you will be successful, right? Like, and the rate of which it grows might be different than other people's, right? There's like, tech is like you open a tech business and you're like instant millionaire, like, right? Like I'm getting there. Like, like who would have thought like a gym owner that, started 10 years ago with, 50 people now has over 800 athletes coming through there through a month. Like, right. I would have like, you would have been out if you would have told me that, like, dude, I'd be like, fuck off. Like, yeah. Like I'm not drinking yet, brother. Like, right. Type thing. And then like, you just kind of like sit there and you just go like, okay, this isn't working. Like, why? Okay. Let's pivot. Let's go. Like, and that's the biggest thing. Like, and what I try to stress to kids. And if I can't do it myself, like, again, like how is a kid going to dream? Right. For like, sure. And like kind of the same thing. So like when you invited me, I was like, this is, because I was talking about like, how do I get that out there more? Like, how do I help more and more people like dream, aspire, like, do that stuff? And you were like, hey, do you want to be on my podcast? I was like, fuck it. Like, yeah. Divine intervention again, exactly. Dude. Like, how does this happen? Yeah. But like also too, like you put some things out in the cosmos of what you want to do. Like, I mean, that's typically what comes around, right?
For
like,
sure.
What you think, what you be, like, people talk about vision boards and all this stuff. Like, I mean, that's really it, right? Like, this is what I want to create. Like, Kate and I sat down. This is the vision. This is what we want to do, right? Like, this is how we're going to get there. Like, yeah. Hey, and then business opportunities just kind of like start like presenting themselves. Like, yeah. Hey, shit. Like, I got this other one coming on. I'm like, fuck, this aligns with exactly what I want to do. Like, I'm in, right? Like, you know, like those things that you're just like kind of going through. And then like, you will probably get to a point, right, where it doesn't like, I make $10 million in order for me to do $20 million. Like, what does that work look like? And is that worth it? Like, you will get to that point, but as long as I'm enjoying that work and that process and the relationships that are being built along the way, like, I'm just going to keep on fucking pushing.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, like, let's just keep going. Like, people are like, yeah, I'm like, let's go. Like, that's always my biggest fan. That was like my senior thing. Like, all the people are like, let's go, Dayne. Like, like even back in high school, they were like, hey, you want to go do this? I'm like, let's go. Like, yeah, I'm in. Like,
just say yes.
Yeah,
do
let's
the damn thing.
let's do this. Like, right? Like, people are like, hey, like, we're gonna go hit baseballs. You want to go? I'm like, yeah, let's go. Like, I'm in. Like,
yeah.
So that's always kind of been my piece, and I think like you kind of have that, and you're just willing to like put it in there, and like I said, reverse engineer, plan out your days, like put forth some work on the front end, right?
Yeah.
Like, and you reap the benefits on the backside, right? Like, I can handle the workload that I do because like tonight I'll sit down, I'm like, hey, here's what I got to knock out Thursday. Here's my plans. Here's what it is, like, and it's there. So like I can, then I'm like, oh shit, I have 2 hours, like, I'm gonna move up these clients here. Like, I'm gonna or make a text like, hey, dude, like, I can fit you in next week
right
now. Like, right, like, like, so like it's just those things, and like it's really nothing more than taking a second, ironing it out, knowing that it's gonna save you time, through. But again, like, the principles that we talked about, long-term athletic development, specificity, right? Like that progressive overload, like, what's next? Like, there's always got to be like that. Kind of encapsulates my entire life of how I do everything.
Yeah. Dream it, reverse engineer it, and just do the damn thing.
Yeah. And then do it. Like, right. Like, here's what I do week 1. Here's week 2. Right. Like, oh, I didn't do this week 1. Like, all right, like, this is now week 1. Like, right. It's okay. Like, like, not everything is going to fall according to plan, but like, right. Like, if it doesn't happen, you still got to start it. Right. Like, week 2 is now week 3. Like, it's okay. Like, it happens. Like, like, let's go, like, type thing. Like,
exactly.
It's just it's another day in which we can kind of like, focus and move on. Like, there'll be days where like my wife's like, you work 12 hours today. I'm like, I know, like, it had to be done. Like, I'm happy about it. She's probably not as happy about it, but like also too, like, it's, it is required. And then like, if you look at that one day or a week, right, there may not be that balance of what we strive for, but right, like, you do the work now in hopes of like, okay, these 2 months are going to be crazy, but I got these 2 months here that we're going to plan a road trip and take our trailer out and go backpacking for a week. Like, I'll just be gone. Like, like, so then like, well, if you're willing to do that, are you willing to do some more work now? Like, yeah, I am,
for sure.
Like, you know, like, so it's just kind of those things, like, you got to kind of build and understand like overall goals and cycles, and understand things are seasonal, and there'll be intensification periods, right? Like, same thing, like we would write a program with, like, hey, it's gonna be intense for a while, like, like, but also too, like, there's a deload.
Yeah.
Like, it's not going to last forever.
For sure. Yeah. I really love your approach because, and we talked about it a little bit off camera before this, but like, so many people that listen to this are people who have either made the jump to take whatever their passion was and like actually start doing it. And they're in totally different phases of it, whether it's right at the beginning or if things have been working for a while or whatever the thing is. But there's also a lot of people who are in that position where they might have identified what the thing is, but they haven't made that jump yet. And they might be like formulating that dream or starting to like get a really clear picture of what is the thing. And I think it's really helpful to hear somebody like you who did have that dream and did reverse engineer it. Like, it makes it seem very actionable and very achievable when it's just like, yeah, ask yourself the right questions or find people who will get around you and like help you be serious about what your dream is. And then you can just reverse engineer that and actually just start to make it actionable, because then it's not this like some dream in this faraway land that you can never get to. It's just like, oh, here's the road that it takes to get there. And I'm going to get tired when I'm walking, but at least I know I'm headed
moving
there.
Forward. Yeah. Like, and that's always the biggest pieces, right? Like, the hardest step is the first step. And then once you have that first step, it's like, okay, what is step 2? And it may not happen as fast as you want, right? Because even looking back when I first made this jump and like went all in, like, it was 3 years. I don't know, my wife would probably know better than I, but I think it was like 2 or 3 years where I didn't pay myself a dime. Like, I completely wiped out, like I had an early withdrawal of like 401k, like, right. Like, I like wiped out everything, but like too, like, I had so much belief in, right, my plan in myself to execute the plan that like I knew it was like this is more of a bump. And I remember having a conversation with a good friend of ours, like Coleman. I was like, dude, like, how do you know a bump in the road? Like, is God putting a bump in the road, or is he trying to tell you to like, dude, like turn the fuck around? Like, and he's like, the only way to know is if you keep going. And I was like, all right, well, shit. Like, you know, like, and it was like, I had that conversation, and then, you know, you're kind of researching and like trying to find, you know, some extrinsic motivation of like, how do I keep on pushing? And, you know, the thing is that like, right, like the number one thing we always get is like, there's not enough time, right? But really that's all we have is time. When you think about it, right? Like every time, like how I spend my 24 hours is a choice.
Yeah. It's not time, it's attention.
Yes. Right. Like, and I mean, I think it was like Pope John Paul is the one that said it, right? Like all we have is time. Like, right. Like, what do you mean? I have all the freedom in the world. I just choose, right? Like, so then you kind of like, you know, it's like, again, like kind of those sayings where like, okay, like, is this the sign? Like, this is what I'm looking at? Because, right, like if I have my 24 hours days and I have the freedom to choose of what I'm going to do, like, okay, now I just need to be selective on how I do things, right? Like, does this help me achieve? Does this move the business in the right step, right? Like, am I going in the right direction? No. Like, okay, like I don't need to do that right now then, right? Like, and then it's just, things become very, very clear of like, hey, I'm just putting puzzle pieces together. That's really, at the end of the day, that's all I'm doing. Yeah. You know, and it's not like, again, like, it's not like I'm this like savant business, you know, entrepreneur where I have like 5 million businesses. Like I got one, you know, like, and I do very well at that one. And, you know, like I said, like, it's because I'm doing well, like now ideas and things are presenting themselves of like, how do I grow this? Like, right, what is the next step? Like, you know, we launched our like baseball academy, and now that's like absolutely just fucking taking off, right? Like, so it's like, okay, what's the next step in that? Like, do I build a field, right? Like, do like now you can kind of see this, and like if that's successful, like, do I do an offshoot then and do like I have a shit ton of basketball and football players, right? Like,
now do I have a complex?
Do I have like a football academy? Do I eventually start there, right? Like, in teaching kids, like, hey, like this is practice, right? Like, here's a fully encompassing piece, right? Like, here's a basketball academy, right? Like, we know AAU, like, all they do is games, right? Like, so development really isn't there anymore. So like, to me, like that'd probably be like, you know, my next steps, like, you know, as I go through with this. So if you guys are listening to this and you take my ideas, like, you know, I'm all for it. Like, go do it. Like, I love it. Someone needs to do it. So, but like I said, like, I think, you know, as we have these conversations, like how does this happen, right? Like, and it's just, again, like, okay, here's what I want to do. Here's how I achieve. How do I achieve this? What does this look like? And then from there, as I paint that picture, like, it's pretty easy to sit down and have a conversation with someone and be like, dude, I'll invest in that. Like,
for sure.
In,
yeah.
Right? Like,
the vision's there.
Yeah. And they're like, holy shit. Like, you're a guy that's like, you're going to do it. Like, you're a doer. Like, you see things and you go, like, I'm hands off. Like, like, you know, like,
for sure.
So it's just like, again, like, so then things start presenting themselves more and more. And then, you know, it's, again, it just kind of comes down to like what you want to do, what you want to achieve. And, you know, to your point, like, reverse engineer it, sit down with it, and, you know, be okay with like some long-term, like, understand the long-term goal and understand that there's going to be ebbs and flows. And like, you know, like I said, like, I mean, there was years that I didn't pay myself, and then, you know, you get going, and then, you know, as typically as revenue grows, so do expenses. It's just one of those crazy things. And like, then all of a sudden, like, revenue kind of takes a drop, but expenses are still there, and you're like, shit, like, all right, we're going back to the savings account. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so it's just one of those things, like, all of that shit happened, you know, through the course of 10 years. But if, you know, you did it, like, trust what the long-term vision was and what the goal was, like, so many people would have stopped, right? And that's why I feel like so many businesses fail at 3 or 5 is just like, you know, they don't pivot. They don't like sit there and look at it from a standpoint of like, what steps am I taking? How do I continue to move forward and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, I think this is going to be super inspiring for everybody on there. And we had a ton of stuff laid out that we were going to get into, from the health and fitness, kind of like the scientific side of things. But it'd be super fun to do this again and deep dive on some of the things now that your story's out there. And I think that I'm really glad about the things we were able to chat about today, because like I said, that for the people listening, I think that your story is super inspiring, and it's I think that you've had a very like wholesome route to success that is inspiring for people, that you don't just have to like white knuckle it and put your head down and suffer the whole time. Like, you can enjoy yourself along the way. So I appreciate you being willing to be open about those things, and just like the way that you explain it is, I think, going to be super cool for a lot of people to hear.
Awesome. Yeah, no, thank you for having me. And yeah, like I said, I printed all this stuff out and then like never even. I told you, I was like, I didn't even open it once. So
save these, man. We'll do it again, and we'll dive into some things. I'm really interested about some of the like supplementation, some of the different things that are popping up and stuff like that. So we'll do like a Drew and Dayne science episode here.
Oh, done. Yeah, done.
Okay, hell yeah, man. Where can people follow you, Beartooth, and do all the stuff?
Yeah, so obviously like social media, like Beartooth Performance. My personal one, Dayne D. I don't use that as frequently, even though I'm trying to get better at it. From there, or I mean, honestly, email is probably the easiest one. Just Dayne at Beartooth Performance. I check that regularly, and if there's any questions around this, or you want to sit down and grab a coffee and that kind of stuff, I'm all for it. Or if there's if you want to have questions more around the strength and conditioning and nutrition side of things, send them my way.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, and if anybody else wants to start training at Beartooth, I'll see you there at 6 a.m. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday.
All right, let's go.
All righty. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. We love you, and be where your feet are. Peace.